Whatever its outcome, at least this election has alerted people to the role that outside bodies now play in the Australian political contest. About the only political ads anyone will remember from this campaign, sadly, are Clive Palmer's. For months, he's completely dominated the airwaves, railing against democracy for sale, even though he's clearly doing everything he can to buy himself a seat in the Senate. There's been plenty of union ads too. I don't think they've had much cut through, to be honest, but the unions have certainly been out doing their best to get a fellow union boss over the line and into the lodge. And then there was that ad I spoke to you about, the GP ad, dishonestly suggesting that Australians can't afford to see the doctor, even though GP bulk billing rates in this country at 86% are at an all-time record high. But by far the organisation that's been most determined to change the government and change the whole political spectrum, shifted across to the left, well, that's been GetUp, which has turned the normally safe-ish Liberal seat of Warringah and about a dozen others into the toughest battleground of the campaign in the left's desperate attempt to drive Tony Abbott from political life. Now, we've all seen the filthy posters. I've heard about the aggressive phone canvassing and the hundreds of activists bust into the beachside suburbs of Warringah after cult-like training videos such as this. But did you know that last year left-wing activists tried to infiltrate the Liberal Party to threaten Abbott's pre-selection? That rich bankers in multi-million-dollar mansions have donated hundreds of thousands of dollars to Zali Steggall's campaign because they want to see more subsidies for renewable energy, while never disclosing just how much they'll earn from their investments in these same renewable technologies. And then all that rot about Abbott's views on women was all trotted out again in this campaign. Now, do you really think a bloke with a strong and independent wife and 3 very well-adjusted adult daughters, not to mention 3 sisters, hates women? You've all got to know me well enough here each night at 6. Do you really think that I'm such a weak and browbeaten sort of woman that I would last 6 years working for any sort of misogynistic bloke? But such are the personal assassinations, the filthy attacks, the abuse and the lies that masquerade as debate, when the real issues of this campaign, the stuff that really matters to families, to small business, to pensioners, to retirees, to our economy, go without sufficient scrutiny. It's sometimes hard to know whether it's GetUp or the myriad of front organisations that it's spawned that are responsible. But what's clear is that this is not a debate over issues or policy. It's a campaign of abuse against anyone who dares to speak up or disagree. I've been saying for months that this is the most important election in decades, not because the Liberals are promising much change for the better, but because Labor are promising much change for the worse. With all these groups driving the standards of public life to new lows, it's hard to see that there won't be a serious assault on the integrity of the polling process. For people who will stoop very low to get the political outcomes they want, there's next to nothing that's done to stop multiple voting and bullying at the polling booth. So what happens, whatever happens this weekend, there must be some reforms that are put in place after the election. First of those, it must be mandatory to produce proof of identity to go on the electoral roll, and ID should be required before voting. No ifs, no buts. Second, there should be an electronic list of voters, so people who voted in one place can't shuffle along to another booth and get their names crossed off again elsewhere. We should only allow registered political parties to hand out material and how to vote cards at polling booths, not unions, not GetUp, not other activists. But most of all, GetUp should be treated as the political player it is and subject to all the probity and disclosure rules of an associated entity, the same rules that the unions have to play by, rather than this out-and-out lie where they still try to claim that they are independent. If we lose confidence in our electoral system, if its integrity is at all damaged, we will lose our democracy.